Did you guys know there's a pretty important SCOTUS hearing this last week?
Oh, really?
Yeah. How much does a knee cost?
We will find out.
Or a kidney? No, we aren't going that. No, that's Planned Parenthood. We got this great doctor coming on in his second segment. Fantastic, Dr. Smith. Excited to talk to him about his whole surgical medical facility stuff going on.
Free market medicine.
Free market medicine. Pastor Toby Chuck Knox. I'm the Water Boy, and this is Pastor Josh Bales in the studio.
Ring the bell.
Is anybody going to say anything about his sports jacket?
No, because guess what?
Josh.
It's let me make that gif
This is your fault.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Ixnay on the.
Okay.
Yeah, they've grown so accustomed to this.
Josh, that's one. That's one, Josh. Okay.
Should I just leave now?
No, you got three, but that's one.
It's Christmas. It's the first Sunday in December, and I always put the jacket on the first Sunday in December.
Gabe.
Yeah.
We noticed.
So, Merry Christmas, man. It's good. It's good. I look good in green and red. I'm not going to lie.
Can you see green and red?
Nope. Is that what this is?
That's what I thought.
Hey, Neil, have we not destroyed? Good stuff.
I'm also got my Christmas shirt on, too, if you haven't seen it.
You can get one of those with the Christmas man box.
That's right.
You become a club member, silver level and above, or just buy it if you're already a club member.
Get these lovely.
Get yourself those camping mugs and a Fresca punching bureaucrats tyrants shirt.
That says Merry Christmas. I mean, it's very Christmassy.
Now, how many in the first few orders are actually going to get the 2 mugs? Because if you order
probably like 3 and that's it.
What? So, no,
we can do more if you guys want. Y'all's call.
Let's get rid of them.
Y'all's call.
We got a whole bunch of other mugs. What'd you say, Neil?
That's our special later.
That's our special. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So I messed up the special. My bad. Go ahead, Gabe.
So what are we promising here? I'm confused.
We're getting mugs. Order now. Order now.
And you'll get a man box. It'll be like a really great man box.
For next Christmas, you should give away the sports jacket.
Yes.
Hey.
Oh, man.
That would be super great.
Everybody that joins gets put in a raffle.
Dude.
And we'll pull out your name.
To get my sports jacket.
We'll send you Gabe's jacket.
I'm sorry. I love this jacket too much. You guys are trying to get rid of it.
You know what? You might be on to something. I'll take that one away. You're back at zero. You're back at zero.
Hey, Confidence Coffee Supply provides organic coffee, freshly roasted, delivered to your door. This coffee is all about sending and supporting missionaries to unreached areas. Try their Great Awakening roast. Hey,
that's what you got right there.
I'm awake.
It's named after the first Great Awakening when God used the gospel preaching of Whitefield and Wesley. This coffee supports Christians who are boldly proclaiming the gospel and working together for the Great Commission.
Amen.
You can subscribe to get coffee delivered every month so you don't run out. Use promo code COFFEE, end quote, and get half off your first bag of coffee. Coffee that goes to building Christ's kingdom to the ends of the earth. ConfidenceCoffeeSupply.com.
I just want to say
you did sneak it in.
This is lovely. We sell coffee, and we actually have sponsors who also sell coffee. Yeah. That just shows you Baptists we can get along with you guys.
Oh, what's up now?
I'm just saying.
What's up now? We're ecumenical Presbyterian.
Absolutely.
Why are you being so mean to the Baptists?
I'm not. I was loving. I'm saying we can get. They're mean to us.
Are you saying they're cranky?
No, I'm saying that we can't be members at their churches.
Oh,
all right. So they're
John Bunyan had an open communion policy.
Yeah.
Did he really?
Yes, he totally did.
Hey,
wow.
Hey, so if you want to be as cool as John Bunyan,
buy this coffee.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's how we do it.
I couldn't get past the Chiapas.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. There you go. All right. So the watershed SCOTUS hearing in Mississippi, Dobbs, Jackson, case happened this past week. I covered a little bit on my water break on Thursday. I had a good lawyer to kind of talk through it all. While the hearing was happening, though, feminists were in the streets taking abortion pills.
Okay, we get it. Okay, Gabe.
All right, you got it.
And if you're listening to the show, just so you know, so there's these 3 gals on the screen who you're hearing them chant, but they're taking something out of packaging
That's labeled abortion pills.
And they're taking out water bottles, and they're actually taking pills and drinking them down while they're chanting this.
They're sacrificing to their God right there.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is about as close to Mount Carmel, I think, as we get these days. But these are the high priests of false god, and they're having a worship service.
Going up on top of the temple.
I just want to add to that. We'll talk about this a little more in the third segment, but I just want to add that if these ladies were pregnant, and what we just saw there is a public execution.
Right.
Yeah.
Public executions, regardless of how you feel about them, are inescapable.
Yep.
They are going to happen, and what we're just watching is a public execution. And so long as abortion is legal, we will have those.
And I'm sorry, guys, I gotta play two awful videos in a row.
Here's another. I don't think you're sorry.
Here's another one from Whoopi.
Do any of you men have any eggs or the possibility of carrying a fetus? How dare you talk about what a fetus wants? You have no idea. Now, I'm fine if you disagree with abortion. I have no problem with that. My problem comes when you tell me what I need to do with my doctor and my family. How dare you? How dare you?
How dare you? Wait, first off, how does she know I don't have eggs?
Right, that's transphobic there.
That's
right.
super transphobic.
She should be canceled for that.
Right.
Like
seriously.
Is J.K. Rowling, has she been canceled for anything less than what Whoopi just
that's
said?
right.
No, that's exactly right.
Second off, is how does she know what a fetus wants?
Right.
Well,
you know.
I bet if the fetus had a choice, the baby had a choice, it'd be like, please don't murder me. Like, if you're really gonna say what the fetus wants,
right?
Well, and there's
don't murder me.
Go ahead, Pastor.
Fetus is the new black, apparently.
Yeah, well,
it's the new slave class. Right? I mean, why are you gonna tell me what to do with my property?
Yeah. So how many people did it take to make the baby?
That's true.
So why is she excluding the man from the process?
Right.
You don't get a baby, and just metaphysically, the way the guys designed the world, woman was made for who?
Man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just so you understand how this is supposed to work.
Right.
But that's patriarchal.
She's creating a false dichotomy argument. This is not a false. No.
Eggs don't make babies.
They don't make babies, right?
That's
you need
good,
both of these, and so you don't get to make the man go away.
Yeah.
And the last point before we move on. So Whoopi's problem is that you shouldn't tell her and her doctor what to do. But she doesn't have a problem with forced vax right now.
Right.
I mean, like just in 25 seconds, all the contradictions that she went through right here. That reminds me, this is like the spirit of Whoopi kind of did enter into the SCOTUS hearing a little bit.
No more ghosts. I've seen enough ghosts for my whole life.
As some of the arguments kind of just went insane. But this is Joy Reid introducing, I think, one of the most insane arguments that Kavanaugh and the pro-life lawyer kind of agreed with.
As I understand it, you're arguing that the Constitution's silent and therefore neutral on the question of abortion. In other words, that the Constitution's neither pro-life nor pro-choice on the question of abortion, but leaves the issue for the people of the states or perhaps Congress to resolve in the democratic process. Is that accurate?
Right. We're saying it's left to the people, Your Honor.
As usual, Brett Kavanaugh brings the most intellectually weak arguments to the debate, right? So his argument about neutrality is ridiculous on its face. You can't be neutral about rights. Either women have rights to their own bodies or they don't.
So real quick, 100%, he's 100% right. Women don't 100% right about neutral. Nothing's neutral.
Yeah, he gets the inescapable law.
Inescapable law. We agree with that. Yeah. That's the one thing I agree with him in all this. But from here it goes downhill. And he starts redefining the terms of the debate right now.
Right.
He starts talking about women's rights.
Yeah. Yeah, and not talking about the actual life, whether it should be alive or be killed.
Right.
And so he changes the distinction of the argument.
And conservatives don't buy into this. Don't let the leftists define the terms of the debate here.
Not a neutral position in there. You have to decide whether they have rights or not. Now, we've already discussed about how his whole framework involves creating a right to a fetus in order to find this neutrality, a fetus that doesn't have rights, and I can prove that again legally.
Well, sorry. We'll finish.
You're not even sorry.
We'll finish the rest of the video. A fetus doesn't have rights?
Yeah, and he actually makes it earlier in the argument. What he says is that conservatives don't want to have the babies put on the taxes. They don't want to have them have education. They don't want to. So we don't. He's trying to make the point that we don't think they actually do have rights because we won't apply all those things across the board.
Right.
That's a massive mistake.
Well, I mean, you take that logic and say, well, what about a 1-year-old?
Right. Exactly.
Well,
same thing.
But why is a black man talking about baby don't have rights?
I don't see race.
Like, I mean, he would be a good Supreme Court justice
Obviously,
in the Dred Scott case, you know?
Yeah.
don't have rights.
Then you point out the other important point that if the whole point of a right, I'm sure I heard it somewhere called inalienable, right? The whole point of a right is that it can't be taken away by state legislators on an ad hoc basis.
Now hold on.
Here you go. Here you go.
I don't know what's happening. My head's exploding. How is he right and wrong all at the same time? He's absolutely right, but he forgets who gives those rights. Why are
who define inalienable?
Right? Inalienable from who?
Yeah.
God. What does he have to say about murder? What does he have to say about life? Right. Yeah. So you can't bite off. Look, if I remember, there was a part of the debate in Doug Wilson with Christopher Hitchens. Doug asked Christopher Hitchens, if you're going to live in the worldview of Christianity, or you're going to attack it, you have to buy into all of it.
Yeah.
So if you're going to buy into the part of inalienable rights, you have to buy into the part of who gave those rights and what are those rights for.
Right.
Anyway, go ahead, Gabe.
To decide whether or not I have the right to vote or walk or breathe or marry or have control over my body. That's against the definition of a right. But there's a third thing that Kavanaugh is doing, and it's very important, I think, because it also goes to his whole personality from where I sit. He's trying to shift responsibility away from the Supreme Court towards the states. The Supreme Court, and we saw all summer, the Supreme Court is very sensitive about losing its legitimacy as it does something that most people don't want it to do, right? And so Kavanaugh is doing the work of trying to say, no, it's not the Supreme Court taking away abortion rights. It's Mississippi, it's Texas, it's Tobin, it's Squee. It's always somebody else with him. It's never him. It's never his job, his institution to stop it.
I actually agree with him a lot with this, and this really makes me mad because one of the things that it really does. I don't like agreeing with this guy. Look at his hair.
Stop agreeing with.
Why do I want to agree with a guy with his hair looks like that? One of the things that Kavanaugh said in that is, okay, I think of it like this: you don't play chess and use your king as a strategy to lose him in order to win the game. Okay, and that don't work. That doesn't work, right? But that's what he's doing. To me, the very idea and intention of the Constitution, by its very nature, is pro-life. I mean, here it is right here. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves. Oh, and guess what? To our posterity.
If we want them.
That's the preamble.
It says posterity.
Okay. And so here's the thing, though. I know it's not in the. I know the preamble ain't the Constitution. I get that part. But this is telling us the whole intent and purpose that the document is even made.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so that's number one. And if you want to look inside the Constitution, look at the 14th Amendment. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of those laws.
Right.
So if we want to talk about and have the debate over a person, I'm willing to have that debate. But don't tell me that the Constitution don't protect. The whole idea of liberty is protecting life. Okay, I'm done.
Well, and you think about that even with the First Amendment, like free speech.
That is I'm gonna start throwing stuff around.
I don't even want to talk about it. Like what else?
But you think about it. Every part of the 10 amendments protect life. Free speech is protecting your life.
Sure.
Giving you that's your body, that's your speech, that's your right. Sure. The 5th, unreasonable search and seizures, that's protecting your life. I mean, everything about it.
Yeah, you got me turned up. I can continue if you like. If you like, but go ahead.
I think part of he's. I agree with you. I agree with him too.
I know what he's doing, right? I get it.
At the same time, I think it's interesting that part of the conversation. So back to Kavanaugh's quote, the question he's asking, and that's the lawyer from Mississippi.
Correct.
Is that correct? Yeah. Part of what it was argued, I believe, by Scalia before he passed away, and then I believe that Thomas holds the view again, both arch pro-lifers think abortion is an abomination. Clarence Thomas has written a minority opinion on every abortion case ever in which he said this is an abomination, this is horrific, this is evil, and so on. But I believe they both argued that the Constitution does not speak directly to abortion,
including Clarence Thomas.
Yeah.
I think Clarence might straddle the line a little bit on that.
But I think they argue that it's evil, but that it should be returned to the states. I think that's their stance. Part of the challenge goes back to the issue of slavery, actually, because at the time of the founding, when these words were written, at least not the 14th Amendment, of course, but before that,
right to life, liberty.
The Constitution insists on inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, while slavery is in existence.
And what was the issue? personhood.
Right, and personhood. And so that's why earlier with Whoopi saying, hey, well, how dare you tell me what to do with my body and my fetus or whatever, as if it's her property.
Yeah, there's two people we're talking about.
Yeah, right. I think that is one of the things that creates a little bit of ambiguity, or at least a little bit of challenge there, where it's like, if you can pass the Constitution, you can sign it and it goes into effect while there are states that are denying personhood to persons in their states, then there's some tension there.
Yeah.
And I think
say that last part again, so I understand that.
So while the Constitution goes into effect, everybody signs it and says, yeah, this is what we agree.
Yeah.
Except for slavery. Except for cases in slavery.
And at the same time, some states deny rights of life to certain persons in their states.
Yeah.
Then there's tension there.
Right.
Or what is meant by life here is a stipulated. It doesn't mean from conception to death. It means life of persons as reckoned persons, or something like that.
And as Christians, what we do is recognize that that's inconsistent.
Right.
That is contradictory.
I want to hear kind of how you end this, because I'm trying to figure out where you're going.
Well, but here's the thing. So I think but later on you've got the 14th Amendment, which
14,
where slavery is outlawed, where personhood is guaranteed to citizens.
Slavery is regulated, not outlawed.
That's true, exactly. 13th Amendment allows for slavery in prisons, but your life can't be taken from you apart from due process of law. And it must be equally applied. There's equal protection clause in the 14th Amendment. So some people will say, well, whatever was maybe ambiguous in the Constitution originally is clarified by the 14th Amendment, which is
as it relates to slavery, right?
But they were also saying, though, as relates to personhood.
Personhood, it's been defined.
So they're saying now you cannot deprive any person, and you can't stipulate a definition anymore. All persons are recognized. Now, but I'm going to go back and run around the other end and basically say, no, I think the Constitution is pro-life, despite the tension, despite the ambiguity with the slavery issue. And the reason for that is the Constitution assumed Christian common law.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Christian common law is what the Constitution was built off of, and going back centuries in the Christian tradition, abortion, the intentional or reckless harming of preborn life, was considered a crime.
Right.
It was a crime against humanity, and I don't think the founders of our country could have conceived of the kind of bloodthirsty paganism that has emerged with women chanting that abortion pills are essential to their freedom and taking them, doing public executions.
Right.
So I think it is a pro-life document. I think the right thing to do would be for the Supreme Court to reverse Roe and just say they were absolutely wrong, just like with Dred Scott.
Right.
Individuals have the right to freedom and to protection of their lives from conception on. Period.
Yeah.
Full stop. I'm afraid that's not what they're going to do.
They're going to split the fetus.
Wow.
Oh,
that's I think what they're
wow.
going to do. But I think that's where their decision's going.
References to Solomon for 300. Bob.
That would not be wise at all. But I mean, I do think that there's going to be a temptation, and I think what they might do is a very narrow ruling, where what they do is they actually uphold the Mississippi law. Yeah. They let the Mississippi law stand without touching anything else.
Yeah.
And then basically what they're doing is just sort of very, very slightly expanding the definition of viability, which is what the standard has been since.
That would be cowardly.
It would be absolutely cowardly. Yep. And while I'm generally good with incremental like reformation, I think that would be a bad increment. I would honestly rather them reject the Mississippi law and make it clear than make it sort of ambiguous and hand a little tiny cookie.
To the pro-lifers.
I think that would be unhelpful. But I think let's not forget, this giant's going to fall.
It is falling.
This giant is going to fall.
Falling.
You can't be chanting that.
It's going to turn into a clown car first.
Yeah, but it's going down because Christ owns this place.
Amen to that. Dr. Keith Smith was coming up next. He's going to sell you an elbow, maybe a knee. Repaired, of course. More Cross Politics coming up next. You don't want to miss this interview.
Hi, I'm Robert Borton, CEO of Classical Conversations. Our most precious commodity is time. No one has ever lied on their deathbed wishing they had spent more time making money. They all wish they had spent more time creating a legacy. Our modern education system steals that legacy, steals that time from our children. That's why I'm passionate about homeschooling. That's why at Classical Conversations, we want to give you more time to create that legacy, follow your passions, and glorify God. Visit classicalconversations.com for more information.
Welcome back to Cross Politic on the one and only Fight, Laugh, Feast Network. Did you know that more than 75% of those raised in evangelical, Presbyterian, and Reformed churches don't pursue any kind of Christian higher education?
I want to know where they get that stat from.
Surprising, isn't it? Cornerstone Work and Worldview Institute is seeking to provide new, exciting, and affordable options for Christians. Their mission is to build kingdom culture in the workplace by equipping students in a Trinitarian worldview and vocational competencies. Imagine that, all those things together. Our low-cost, full-time program offers integrative course modules, internships, and mentoring so our students can finish debt-free with vocational preparation, a robust faith, and financial potential to build strong, godly families and homes rooted in their communities and churches long-term. The program is offered face-to-face in beautiful Southern Illinois or remotely anywhere you are. Visit their website at www.cornerstonework.org to find out more about enrolling.
That was good, Toby.
You like that?
You were like looking at the camera the whole time.
Smooth.
Way to blow that guy.
We're just working on new technology here in the studio. I was just impressed.
Hey, we're thankful to have with us on the show Dr. Keith Smith. Dr. Keith Smith is a board-certified anesthesiologist in private practice since 1990. In 1997, he co-founded the Surgery Center of Oklahoma, an outpatient surgery center in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, owned by over 40 of the top physicians and surgeons. It's in central Oklahoma. Dr. Smith serves as the medical director, CEO, and managing partner while maintaining an active anesthesia practice. In 2009, Dr. Smith launched a website displaying all-inclusive pricing for various surgical procedures, a move that has gained him and the facility national, even international attention.
He must have got that pricing from Planned Parenthood or something.
What?
No, they sell body parts.
Oh, man.
He repairs them.
They sell body parts.
Right.
Okay,
He repairs them.
All right.
Yes. Many Canadians and uninsured Americans have been treated at his facility, taking advantage of the low and transparent pricing available. His most recent effort is the launch of the Free Market Medical Association, which provides a platform where those seeking to obtain high quality and affordable health care can find free market-minded providers, both physicians and facilities. Dr. Smith's revolutionary approach, like going back to the Revolutionary War, to the pricing of healthcare and uncompromising free market principles, has brought him on all kinds of shows and interviews, and now he's on Cross Politic. Dr. Smith, thanks for joining us on Cross Politic.
Thanks for having me.
So where did this idea come from? Where did this originate? I said the Revolutionary War, but maybe it was
even before that.
Well, I'm a free market guy, and I just thought, why in the world shouldn't everyone in my industry say, this is what I do and this is what I charge for it, and have the market judge them either harshly or favorably? I mean, every other industry has to obey that market discipline.
Yeah.
We had been involved in this medical industry as anesthesiologists. Dr. Steve Lantier and I, were part of the cartel, enabling hospitals in their financial homicide of patients. We just knew it wasn't right.
Yeah.
And so, as a proponent of the free market, I felt like, to be philosophically and ethically consistent, I needed to obey the same discipline all of my friends who were in other industries had to obey. So in 2009, I just put all of our prices online. I knew that there were a lot of things wrong with the way the industry worked, and saying here's what we do and here's what we charge for it might help expose some of the mercenaries and thieves in the industry, and I'd argue that has been successful.
So that's my next question, Dr. Smith. So you started, you put your prices online in 2009. You've been going for 12 years at that now. What's the fallout been? Has it been successful?
Yeah, it's been wildly successful. I like to tell everyone that right after I launched the website, there were many things that happened that were that I did not forecast, the most radical of which was that the Canadians were the first patients to arrive.
Whoa.
Wow. Of course they are.
Yeah, I mean, they all have coverage, whatever the heck that means, but they just don't have access to the care that so many of them require. So, we met Canadians who, we could do a whole nother interview on this, that would inexplicably defend the system that had chased them all the way to Oklahoma. So
wow.
I learned.
We call that Stockholm syndrome.
It's Stockholm syndrome. That's exactly what it is. So I learned to never have that conversation with a Canadian, and just to give them the care that otherwise they've been denied. Wow. But it's been a wild success. We've treated patients from all 50 states now. On many days, I'll walk through pre-op and introduce myself to all the patients, and there might be one patient from Oklahoma. There might not be one patient from Oklahoma. Okay. So it's a movement that's been very successful. There are others that have copied us, and that is vindicating. And perhaps the most exciting thing is the price gougers, the mercenaries out there, are feeling the heat. They're feeling this market pressure, particularly in the Oklahoma City area, and they are starting to step up to the plate. We receive requests for procedures we can't appropriately perform in our outpatient procedure that are strictly inpatient procedures.
Okay.
And it is commonplace now. I'll reach out to a hospital administrator and ask them, do you want to help this patient from Florida who otherwise is facing bankruptcy? And they come up with good pricing, and I bundle it all up and quote the patient or their self-funded employer a price. Mm-hmm. And these people travel to Oklahoma and receive their care at price gouging hospitals that tried to put me out of business when I first launched this website. So everybody's kind of coming around and feeling the heat, and that's what the market does. It makes everybody behave, or it crushes them. So it's very exciting. I'm optimistic.
That's great. So you use the term financial homicide when you were talking about, define that. Describe what are the hospitals doing where that's such a strong verbiage that you're using?
Well, when we launched our website, our prices were created de novo. I just asked the surgeon, how much do you want for a tonsillectomy, for gallbladder removal? And as an anesthesiologist, I billed for my time. I had to come up with a fee per hour that I thought was reasonable and fair. Yep. And that the market will support. And in the surgery center, I price our service based on time and materials, just like anybody else would in a business. And so when I came up with these prices de novo, I had no idea where I really stood in the grand scheme of things. But it turned out that these so-called not-for-profit hospitals were charging patients 10 times what I posted online.
Wow.
And they would break people's kneecaps to get it. So the worst thing, though, is not that they charge so much, it's that none of these charges are revealed to patients ahead of time. So, somebody receives a bill after they receive the service with no idea that they are going to be plunged into bankruptcy. So I told my friend Tony Dale, who runs the cost-sharing ministry Severa, one time that I realized I was part of a team of financial serial killers. And so when I say financial homicide, I mean people's lives and their financial situations been destroyed countless times. And there's some real heroes out there that are helping with this. One is my friend Marty McCary at Johns Hopkins, who has just gone on a mission to help patients that are in that situation. If you're not familiar with him, both of his books are just outstanding, where he basically tells the stories of patients who are the kind of victims I'm describing.
Hey, Dr. Smith, this is Chocolate Knox. I wanted to ask you, as you're talking, some of the things that are going through my mind is growing up, we've only known one kind of medical situation. This sounds very foreign to a lot of people. And so when you start talking about, I'm looking at your website right now, I'm looking at Achilles repair is $5,730. and I didn't even know that's how much my Achilles was worth. You know, I mean, I'm going on your site and there's nothing I've seen that's over 10K, just scrolling quickly through everything. Everything is it's amazing how affordable this is.
How much is ibuprofen that you're?
But one of I can see right now a lot of people naturally are thinking, what is there seems like in the institutions and in the industry, there's a certain type of protection that if something goes wrong or we don't like it, that we have an appeals, we know we're going to be taken care of. What is the quality of
your Achilles surgery?
What we see inside of the pricing? Are we missing any quality? Is the quality better? What can you say to help people trust that this system that you're doing is ultimately not just a financially secure system, but also a very healthy and safe system?
Well, the answer is a bit counterintuitive. To understand how to wrap your mind around the quality, one has to understand why prices are high. If you look at an area like Wisconsin, where the prices are as high as anywhere in the country, the reason those prices are high is that there's no competition. If there were any competition at all, the prices would do what prices do. When there is competition, they would tend to fall. So wherever you see high prices, that just means nobody is in there mixing it up. Where you see lower prices, that means competition is present. Put yourself in the shoes of a hospital that doesn't have any competitors. They don't have to be any good. Wow. They can be horrible and still rely on all of the referrals coming in.
Facts.
So the counterintuitive answer is the lower the price, in all likelihood, the higher the quality. My friend Jeff Rice, who founded Healthcare Blue Book, has backed me up on this and has done very in-depth quality studies, and with no exceptions, the lower the price someone finds, actually the higher the quality. So the person might say, well, you get what you pay for. Well, not exactly. In a functioning market, that can be true. But this is not a functioning market. This is an industry that works like a cartel that's enabled by Uncle Sam, who drives the getaway car away from every heist that happens. So quality is determined by a lot of factors. It's very difficult to measure. It's very difficult to objectify. But what I tell patients is, we stand behind what we do. If something goes wrong, then we will help you get through it, and promise that by when everything, all the dust settles, you will still feel like this was a mutually beneficial exchange.
I suggest everybody goes to the website, surgerycenterok.com. This is amazing. I'm looking at prices for, I finally found something that was over 10K. It was a breast reconstruction surgery. I don't think I'm going to need one of those.
Right.
But
it's true.
It's
true. You're not.
But it's still, it's still amazing looking at this. A knee.
Wait, doctor, you do trans surgeries?
Do we do what now?
Do you do transgendered surgeries?
Absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely not. That, no.
How do I say this again? No.
I do know he does knee surgeries for $3,700.
He could take out my knee and then replace it.
Shoulder surgeries for $5,700.
Gabe, he actually fixes people. He actually heals people.
Amen.
He doesn't destroy their bodies.
Oh, a wrist, $4,300. Fix your wrist for $4,300.
Keep in mind, all of our prices are all inclusive.
Oh.
So that includes surgeon, anesthesia, and facility.
Okay, so
that's not just the facility. And some people are paying $1,200 or $1,500 a month for insurance with a $5,000 or $7,000 deductible. So they're going to have $18,000 come out of their pocket, to cover, whatever silly insurance they're buying.
Wow.
There are not very many procedures on our entire website that cannot be purchased for 1 year premium.
Wow. So how? Maybe I'm being nosy here, Doc, but how do y'all make any money?
We are making money, and that's the real crazy part of this. I mean, at $3,740, which is what we charge for a knee arthroscopy, the surgeon is paid a handsome fee. In fact, on all of our fees, the surgeons are paid more than any of the insurance companies typically pay them.
Oh, wow.
But I'm just here to tell you, we have not raised, I'm going to say we've raised 5 prices since I started quoting over the phone in 1997.
Wow.
So all of the prices are exactly the same, with just a handful of exceptions. They're all the same.
Wow.
That's what I quoted over the phone in 1997, and of course the same as what we posted online in 2009. I've lowered quite a few.
Wow.
So
there are several prices we've lowered.
So
I mean, the cost of our supplies is going up thanks to the Federal Reserve and the government just not being able to spend money they don't have.
Right.
But I'm considering for the very first time this coming October a generalized price increase because of supplies going up, but I haven't done it for 25 years.
Oh, my goodness.
So, Doc, I'm sorry, Gabe.
Yeah, so you guys remember a long time ago we had this doctor on from actually southern Idaho.
Right.
He wrote a book on kind of the financial shift in what's happened in our medical world over the last 30 years. And I believe back in kind of speaking of like net present value dollars, back in like the 70s, it would cost, or 60s, it would cost about $500 to $800 to have a baby in the hospital.
Okay.
And now it costs, $10 to $15,000 to $18,000 to have a
Depending on if
baby.
you eat the steak that they bring you to.
In the hospital.
Right.
Net present comparing.
Right.
Saying, so, all right, if we're using the same dollar value in 60s, 70s, it was about $800 to have a baby in the hospital. Now it costs $18,000. What your surgical center has effectively done has reversed that trend. So I think the hospital costs have basically gone up over was it like 1,500% since the 70s? And so hospital costs keep going up and up, and your surgical center's not going up and up. Why is that happening?
Well, let's be careful to distinguish between price and cost.
Right.
Because what hospitals are charging is what, frankly, they can get away with.
Wow.
What it costs them to take care of patients is not significantly different.
Wow.
But for all of the bashing that the price gougers deserve, whether it's big pharma, whether it's the hospitals, the insurance companies, they all deserve to be bashed. But it's so important to remember none of these scams is possible without the enabling of the federal government. The real evil player in this whole thing is Uncle Sam. And like I said, he gets a commission on every one of these heists because these people have paid for these favors at an auction in D.C. Not with our interests in mind. So just be careful to distinguish between what it actually costs the hospital versus what they're charging for it. What they're charging for it is obscene.
Keith, can you connect the dots what you just said there about paying high prices at an auction in Washington, D.C.? How is it that these hospitals are, how is Uncle Sam getting this cut?
Well, keep in mind the medical lobby is larger than all of the other lobbies combined, including defense.
Wow.
So there is so much money that is passed around in D.C. That, the legislators, whose bread I eat, his song I sing. They're being paid to do what they're told.
Wow.
This is a gigantic lobby, and they get what they want. And they get what they want through Medicare rates. They get what they want through these schemes that help them maintain the fiction of their not-for-profit status, where they have these $100,000 charges that an insurance company reduces down to $20,000, and so they claim they lost $80,000.
Right.
And that's how they red ink. That's how they red ink and paper over all the money they're making.
Right.
And at the same time, the hospitals say they're going broke. Somehow they come up with money for Super Bowl ads and buying physician practices and buying out competitors. And there's yeah, there's a crane in front of every emergency room that's supposedly bankrupting them. I mean, who builds on to their loss leader? So when you pick through all the lies, you realize they've paid a lot of money at what is just simply an auction, the political process that allows these people to clean our clock.
SurgeryCenterOK.com. I hope you go to it. I hope you tell everybody about it. Keith, one last question before we go. We're a political show, a Christian political show. I want to know, what is the legislation right now that you're looking at, that you're paying attention to, that could have massive effects on what you do?
Well, the government has decided that, and the legislators have decided it's politically correct and wonderful to get involved in the price transparency movement. And the thing you should worry most about is when somebody from the government says they're coming to help you.
Right.
Amen.
So as the government gets more involved with mandates of all kinds, including mandating price transparency, I think people should grab their wallet and be very, very skeptical. That will not turn out well. Whenever the government attempts to hamstring the free market, that's always worrisome. But I frankly worry more when somebody tells me they want to help out.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow. Keith Smith, thank you so much for joining us on Cross Politics. SurgeryCenterOK.com. Get on there. Find you a knee for Christmas. This is Cross Politics. More coming up next.
I got two knees.
You might need another one. Don't hurt to have one in the freezer, you know what I'm saying?
Man, I want that doctor to do surgery on me. Replace my knees when I get older. Knees,
whatever.
We will take you there, Gabe, and we will drop you off.
I wonder, did he replace the bicep of what's his?
Whoa!
Does he do new biceps? Because
we might be able to make a connection for him.
Too soon.
All right. Too soon.
We didn't mention this on the show, but actually the Free Market Medical Association is also something you ought to check out, because there's chapters all over the country.
Okay.
So there are other doctors, and I don't know if there's other surgery centers as well that are trying to duplicate what he's doing. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I was excited. Like when you're listening to what he's doing, this is like Samaritan Ministries.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
It's like you're there. This is actually what Christian warfare looks like.
Yes.
Like they're going after the giant of big pharma.
Yeah.
And socialized medicine, and they're doing it through building a better product.
Yeah, that's right.
Like we can make it better, and we'll beat you doing it.
I wonder if Samaritan Ministries and these guys can get connected so that
I'm sure they are.
That way, because
he mentioned one of the other Samaritan Ministries competitors.
Oh, okay.
He mentioned the CEO that he's friends with, so he knows about all this stuff.
It would make sense.
He knows about
FMMA.org, Free Market Medical Association. Check this out. Hey, this segment's brought to you by Bobo Construction. By the way, I love my new Bobo Construction hat. It's my new favorite hat.
It's a good hat.
I like it. I mean, it's
I love?
Comfortable. It's got the camo.
Yeah.
It's just comfortable. I love my new Bobo.
I love my note. Be careful on the golf cart. That's what I love.
Your note was right here.
I still got it.
His note's still right here.
It's right there.
Be careful on a golf cart.
It's just a good general recommendation for Knoxville.
Wisdom. That's loving your neighbor right there.
Christians need to start thinking about doing business with fellow Christians.
Amen.
No, this isn't a plug for our FLF business listing, but
it could be.
Check that out too. This is a plug for Bobo Construction, Inc. Are you? Sorry. Are you a developer, architect, or project manager? If so, I have a Christian commercial construction company you should be partnering with.
End quote. You want to do that all over again?
Yeah. Do we need to start over?
Bobo Construction is a fourth-generation family-owned general contractor that was founded back in 1962. That's what we do. Their motto is whatever is fair and right. That's what we do. The Bobo Construction Inc. headquarters is in Sacramento County, California, and they are defying vaccine mandates.
My people.
There you go. Bobo Construction
Let's go,
Inc.
Austin.
has recently expanded into Idaho and Eastern Washington with offices in Meridian.
I love
That
it.
By you guys,
I love
right?
it. Boise area.
Port
Yeah.
Olympus. And is in search of potential partners to wage war on tyranny. They can do any commercial project from $0 to $80 million.
Are they stopping at 80?
80. Why would you stop
They
there?
got
I'll be like,
81 million faith? What I'm saying?
I don't know. Talk to them. Some of their past projects include retail office buildings, schools, colleges, sustainable construction, and industrial facilities. To learn more about Bobo Construction Inc., visit them at boboconstructioninc.com. You can also contact Austin Bobo at Bobo, B-O-B-O, at boboconstructioninc.com or call him at 208-789-0995. Sorry for totally botching your ad. But, anyways.
Pastor Josh is sitting over here.
Oh, Josh. Hey.
Hey.
You're not done
Time to
yet.
introduce Josh finally.
Josh is the pastor of the Well Church.
No S. No, it's not the Wells.
Yeah.
It's the Well.
The Well.
As in we're
Not the
doing
well.
well?
Because there's
or
only
like
one well.
Like John 4, well, the well.
Okay.
There's only one well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Worshiping in spirit and truth.
Yeah, nice. And in Boise, Idaho.
In Boise.
Yes. Married to Monica
Yeah.
for 21 years.
21 years. Yep.
Nice.
Y'all, marriage can drink.
Yeah.
Well, look at that.
Hey.
We're entering into adulthood finally.
Yeah. 3 sons.
Yep.
Baptized?
They are, yeah. In fact, my oldest, Josiah, we're here in Moscow because he's, trying to get in with NSA. So
Checking out New St. Andrews. Okay.
And been pastor of the Well since 2010. You love all things Jonathan Edwards.
yes.
All right.
And
Yes.
the Puritans.
Yes.
Very good. Well, it's great to have you, Josh. Thanks for being
man.
brave enough to sit next to Gabe.
Yeah, well,
Especially during Christmas.
It's the sports jacket, man.
Yeah.
Okay, see, now you're back in it again. We talked about this the first
Thank you
segment.
for talking about
let me
my
remind
jacket.
you have amnesia. We're giving it away.
Yes. It won't be here next year, I'll tell you that. So you're sitting here with your Bible open, man, and I've watched you like in the interview, I watched you during the first part of the segment, and you've just been paging, turning, and finding stuff. What are you doing over there?
Well, when we were watching that segment on the women eating the abortion pills, that verse in Proverbs 8 where the pre-incarnate Christ says, all who hate me love death.
Yeah.
We're just worshiping death. I mean, is there any more evidence that you need that we live in a culture of death and hatred of God than that right there? I mean, that was sick.
Yeah.
Execution.
And then you got that piece of paper was blank when you walked in here.
Well, it was only half blank.
He was writing his sermon.
Yeah.
Are you really?
No.
Are you that bored that you need to write a sermon?
No.
I want to start here. I want to ask you. So, are you pro or anti death penalty? Where are you at?
The Bible is very clear on this issue in Genesis 9.
Okay.
I think it's unequivocal.
So you don't? Do you think? We want to talk about this, but do you think that when some people make the argument from in the New Testament with the gospel, Jesus kind of
erases everything in the Old Testament?
Yes.
No, I don't hold that.
So you and Andy Stanley gonna have it out as soon as y'all see each other.
That's right. Yeah. I don't believe in unhitching the Old Testament from the New.
And so the reason I'm asking, the reason I want to talk about this is that this past week, I think it was Monday, I was on Jason Whitlock's show. We're talking about the Darrell Brooks situation, and usually I'm aware enough to know.
Is Darrell Brooks the name of the SUV that drove in?
I think it was Dodge. They don't want that to be today. But anyway, that's right, for real. The car that. So if you don't remember, Darrell Brooks was the guy in Waukesha who actually drove his SUV through a Christmas parade, killed 6 people, grandmothers, children, and wounded over 40 people.
Right. And what was it, the week before?
And the week before,
he had tried to run over his girlfriend?
Yes, his girlfriend, and he beat her.
Yeah.
He beat her and tried to run over. And so I had just, for the most part, I'm aware of where I'm at. I try not to unintentionally step on people's toes.
You don't want to poke somebody in the eye, unintentionally.
Yeah, what is it? I can't remember who says it, but a gentleman doesn't unintentionally offend someone.
Yeah,
he
that's
intentionally
right.
does it.
Yeah, right.
And I unintentionally stepped on some toes, and I didn't know that I did. When I said that I thought Darrell Brooks should actually have the death penalty way before now, and he wouldn't have harmed all the people that he currently harmed.
Right.
And I said it twice, and Jason kind of said, I'm not a death penalty guy because we make so many mistakes with actually killing innocent folks. So I don't want to take that risk. Why should I become a pro death penalty guy? But I'll tell you what I said later. My point is that I didn't know, and I had to go do a little more research, how little conservatives or Christians are even anti-death penalty. And I just assumed, that of course we're pro-death penalty because that's what God says in his word to be.
Right.
And I was so it began to make me think, it's starting to make sense now why we have the abortion stuff that we have in such rapid stages.
Yeah.
And why we have Darrell Brooks, and why we have the social justice movement, and why we have our cities burning down. Because if you don't have a strong conviction on the word of God when he tells you to do something, like implement the death penalty so that wicked men will fear a righteous ruler and suppress wickedness, it literally suppresses it. And it removes the effect of judgment from your land.
Right.
So your land actually gets tainted with blood guilt, because you don't execute people who take human life.
How ironic that we live in a culture where evangelicals at large are quoting Romans 13 in order to,
that's right,
implement tyranny.
It's a foam sword.
And that's where I was going. Like, what sword is Caesar using here?
It's a foam sword.
Yeah.
I mean, what is he supposed to do with that sword?
That's right.
Just lightly tap people on the shoulder and say,
we're knighting people.
Yeah, right. No.
Well, and I was trying to figure out, so I was doing a little research trying to figure out, okay, if it's true that the death penalty that God requires us to, there's, I think I was reading through it. When I looked at murders in America, I can't remember. Gabe, do you have that sheet?
Pull up.
Yeah.
Because I know you're looking at a verse. But
right.
The person who made me think through this a little clearer was Jared Longshore.
Okay.
And Jared Longshore made a point that if you look at the amount of murders we have in America. Now, this is really interesting because the death penalty just isn't over murder. The death penalty can actually be over striking your parents, right? Like biblically. The death penalty can be over rape, right?
Right.
Incest. The death penalty can be over
man-stealing.
Exactly. Sex with animals. Leviticus 18.
Capital punishment, death penalty, is only required in first-degree murder.
Right.
That's when it's required by God.
Right.
But it is a maximum penalty for other crimes.
Absolutely. And I would even say, I would say Leviticus 18 is one of those.
Other crimes?
No, is mandatory. You don't get to have sex with animals. Anybody who's going to that point having sex with animals, they are bad for your society, right? Anyway, so I start. Go, are you gonna say it?
I'll let you have it. It's fine. I already.
You aren't gonna argue about that.
I already said what I thought.
Yeah, but so as you look, I was looking at this, and since 1973 up until now, we have only put to death 15,050 or 60 murderers. Mm-hmm. Now, this is just dealing with murder. This is not dealing with, I would put to death a man who decides to take the virginity of a woman and rape her. He deserves to have the death penalty, right? That's just, we're not even putting in rapes in this category. Mm-hmm. This is just murders. But we've had, what's the number? Since 1973, all the way up to now, 1,500 people have been put to death
by the government
through execution. Yep. In our best day of doing that, 1999, we put to death that year 98 criminals. Okay,
that was the most.
The murderers.
About 15,000 people were murdered in 1999, and the death penalty, only how many people received the death penalty?
98.
So under 100.
So we had 15,522 people that committed violent criminal crimes, murder. That's what we would murder, and we only put to death 98.
And what's the rate? So this is just a chart describing the murder.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a chart regarding death penalty. Just those who've murdered.
Okay.
Or been murdered.
So what was and is the death penalty rate tracking with this at all?
Not even close.
Okay.
So it goes down after that. That is our best. 98 was what our best was, and after you
in 1999,
yes,
that was our best.
That was our best.
So you're saying this is working?
It's so what we have done is
looks like it to me.
Yeah, and it is working.
I mean, the
more
people, more murderers we put to death, the less murderers we get.
Well, you know what this does illustrate? That Hillary Clinton's super predator legislation worked.
Right.
Because that started in the 90s. Bill Clinton, the super predator legislation started, and so 3 strikes you're out.
That was the 3 strikes you're out.
What actually happened is they ramped up slavery to reduce murders, and that's what did happen.
But you also said we did more death penalties in that year.
Last year we had an amazing amount of I think it jumped 20% in our homicide.
I see that, up to 21,000.
And so it went, and we, I think, hardly had any executions. Right. And
that's because COVID worked so well. The shutdowns worked really good. Yeah.
It's no wonder that, there's I can't remember exactly where this is in the Old Testament, but when I think it was, it might be Numbers, because that's where we're at. Leviticus or Numbers, where God is going through and he's telling the refuge, the cities of refuge and the cities that are connected to each other, if there's a dead body somewhere between your land, the closest person to that dead body is the one who's required to find justice for that dead body. And if they don't find justice for that dead body, then the blood guilt will be on them. And so that blood guilt, that's a judgment on the land. And what that judgment is more death. Because it's not satisfied. And so, there's a lot of people have thought of the death penalty in a humanistic type of way, because they think that the most important thing is the human being. And so therefore you don't take life. And so we need to put people to death because he's a human being. But the truth is that God has put his image on man.
Right.
And it is God who is the one who legislates whose life gets to be taken and for what standard, for what reason it should be taken. So you don't get to be wiser or smarter than God on this issue.
Right.
And so, there's some of the things, one of the things I said with Jason when he said, well, how do you make sure you don't kill the wrong person? We need a whole rehaul of our criminal reform system. We just do. And not in a way where like destroy the whole system. We need to understand the principle of human life, the value of it again under God's word, and then apply the principles in such a way that we don't have to worry about whether or not we're getting the wrong person, because all the criminals fear. The people who are false testimonies, they fear because they don't want the judgment, according to God's law, the judgment that you meet against the person, the false testimony that you apply, whatever the situation is that person is supposed to be getting as far as judgment, if it's death, if it's paying back something, if you lie and say he stole, if you get that wrong and you're careless with that person's life, that is actually something that falls on you.
Think about Naboth, when Jezebel hired those 2 false witnesses to come against Naboth so that Ahab could get the land.
Yeah. Right.
How inclined would they have been to do that had God's law actually been operative in the land? That, man, if we get caught at this, we're dead. We're dead men.
We deserve the death penalty because that's what we were testifying against Naboth for.
Yep.
I was thinking about, as you're talking, Knox, about the point you made when we were talking with Shan recently on the show, Works Holsters.
Yeah,
you talk about
WRKZ.
how carrying a gun makes you think about the world differently.
Yeah.
I think there's something similar going on here.
Yeah.
When we have a death penalty in place, and it's a real live option, that makes you think about the world differently.
Right.
Yes. Right.
I think that's. Ultimately, I think what we're talking about is the fear of the Lord.
Yeah.
The fear of God. When you know that, because that's really what you're doing is the death penalty is sending somebody straight to the throne room of God.
Yeah.
For God to deal with.
Yes,
God,
no?
God, you deal with this.
Right.
That's. I think there's something similar. I think it creates a kind of sobriety. There's this lethal power.
Yeah.
In the hand, and I take Jason's questions.
Me too.
I think there's weight to that. What if we
so.
get it wrong? Exactly. There's heaviness, there's weightiness, but God expects us to have to exercise wisdom and justice.
Yes.
Carefully, and I'll even say, furthermore, I think I'm real nervous right now about our justice system using the death penalty.
Right.
Yeah, look at the Rittenhouse case.
Yeah,
we don't know what a baby is.
That's right.
And we squint. We're we're not really sure if that's a human life or not. And then we're gonna say, you need to execute. Justice.
We're already getting it wrong.
Yes.
So when Whitlock says, I'm afraid of getting it wrong, we're already getting it wrong by not following God's law.
Right.
The other thing is I watch people who want to argue against the death penalty. Part of how you don't start getting it right by not doing it. you don't develop muscles. I'm afraid to break them. You don't start getting muscles stronger without exercising them. We need to find the most simplest place to start exercising. We say this all the time on the show. You can't practice biblical law if you don't practice it in your home. You don't practice it in yourself. You said this the last Wednesday. You said, listen, if you want to start this, it starts with you saying no to yourself. You don't live by lies in yourself. You don't deal with, if you don't deal with sin yourself, you can't deal with sin out there.
Practice the death penalty with your sin.
That's bars.
That's right.
And, but the part of one of the arguments, I think it's kind of the go-to argument, the kind of the one in the back pocket of all the people who are anti-death penalty, is the lady caught in adultery. Right? They love to use that one.
Yeah.
And I think yes.
I would like to answer that one.
Yes, please. But before you do, I just want to say this is a shout out to James White. Love you, dog. James White always says if that verse actually should be inside them.
He debates that chapter 8 of John is in the. Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So Jesus practices biblical justice in that story.
In John chapter 8, lady caught in adultery.
Jesus does not set aside.
Let me argue with you. No, he doesn't. He didn't stone the lady.
Yeah, he said, I would like to call for witnesses. He said, which one of you would be willing to testify against this woman? And just so you be protected so that you don't end up getting executed by self-incriminating yourself, let me suggest that if you want to be a witness, you be free of this sin. Which one of you wants to do it?
And you're going to participate in her execution.
Right. But that would be required. But
that's
it's like, so which one of you? Because that's what was required by biblical law. 2 or 3 witnesses, and those who testify can be cross-examined to make sure that they weren't involved in it. They weren't luring her. They weren't practicing entrapment, that kind of thing. And
you mean like they did with Jesus?
Like they did with Jesus.
And they have to cough up the man. Who was the man?
So all right, who is it? And one by one, it says, starting with the oldest, they left.
They walked out.
And then so what Jesus asks the woman is, where are your accusers? And she says, they're all gone. And he says, well, then neither do I accuse you. You have to be an eyewitness.
Can I point something out with that too?
Yeah.
All that said, and this goes to the point of not getting it wrong, she was guilty.
As far as we know.
Because he says, go and what?
Sin no more.
So, I mean, and so there is a way that God's justice works that if the
it's
setup,
actually merciful.
That's right. That's what I was getting to.
Yeah.
If you people say, well, what if the thief gets away?
Yeah.
He won't.
God will get him.
You do all the things that you're supposed to do that God's required of you, and then there's a certain type of vengeance that is not inside the civil realm to operate that God takes care of. Right. And it happens so much, and so there is a person who is guilty, but because of what the law requires, she didn't have adultery by herself.
Yeah. Right. But
whatever the case is going.
But it's also very possible that
they could have just brought her.
Well, I'm just saying, I think there are oftentimes these women in these situations have been badly mistreated.
I believe that.
And she can be complicit in various ways, but the law actually does defend a woman in this situation.
Yes.
2 or 3 witnesses. How are you going to get those witnesses? People who are involved in that act with her.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, even the circumstances in Deuteronomy, when the woman is caught sleeping with the man, it specifically says, well, if they're in the city.
Yeah.
And if she doesn't cry out, but if she's in the country and nobody can hear her, she can't be condemned.
Right.
So God's pretty wise when He's taking all these circumstances into mind.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking about the reason why I think our country doesn't want the death penalty is because we don't want repentance. If you think about this, I was looking at the stats while you guys were talking. The highest year that this chart shows where there was murders was in 1991. 24,000 people were murdered in 1991.
Yeah.
That means if they were true, legit murders and the people were convicted, we should have had 24,000 death penalties.
Well, here, I'll read this off to you. 16,000 to 17,000 homicides in the U.S. in 2019. You know how many executions? 22.
22 executions.
Nearly 50 murders a day, 46 people executed per year since 1982.
And so if America really wanted the death penalty, what that would take for America to do would be to submit themselves to God's word.
Right.
Yeah.
To repent.
Right.
And we don't. So when we don't want the death penalty because we know that it is directly connected to our need to obey God in our judicial system all the way through. I mean, you think about just in our local shenanigans that are going on. Like the cops have been lying. The city prosecutor here in Moscow has been in bed with the judge. What happened? What's happening to us here kind of happened at Rittenhouse. Yep. Video evidence was hidden at Rittenhouse's trial. They didn't discover video evidence until the after everything was closed out, stuff like that. And Rittenhouse had his life on the line. Right. We have stickers on the line here in Moscow. We have nothing on the line.
No, give it a second. It doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
Well, they were threatening jail time to Nate's kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. 100%. And all the misdemeanors all had jail time associated with it on my side and Nate's side.
Yeah.
And it was all corrupt.
Yeah.
It was all, so every point in our judicial system really is pretty messed up. But but if we're going to go and make the stakes high with what justice really means in our country,
right.
That means everyone knows that means, we got to repent.
I think it's even worse than that, though, Gabe, because I don't think it's that we don't have the death penalty. We have a death penalty.
That's right. It's
60 million babies have been exexecuted in our country.
Yeah. That's right.
That's right.
So
that's an inescapable concept.
So I mean,
it's not who's going to get the death penalty.
No, anybody's like we need no death. Like it's death
public
penalty
execution
is inescapable.
Yeah. The other thing that I was thinking about is that now I know. And because I value life, getting it wrong really doesn't matter. But there are places we have to have the post in the ground of where our positions are. It doesn't mean that we start building the house there right away. Yeah. But those posts let us know which direction we're going and at what level we're building. Right. So people who are like, I really don't have a system idea on the death penalty, then you can't operate at all the way up here on this other side. You can't because you don't know where you're going. You can have the death penalty position while you work in the more simple things, right? To work its way out to say, okay, so how do we get here?
Right.
Yeah, I think this goes back to incrementalism. I think not everything is perfect all the time. Sanctification happens, but the sanctification is going a particular way.
Right.
It's going towards a particular destination. And so as we're working through theological positions, not all of it is feasible to implement like that. It doesn't happen like that. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But not to have that position settled means that you're drifting all the way up here on justice. Right. So when we talk about social justice, what are those guys who are stealing stuff supposed to do? Do you want to lock them up and put them in jail? Why would you do that?
Right.
Why would you force the people who had stuff stolen from them to pay for this person's lifestyle in a cush prison?
Right.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? That's not justice. And so I'm saying that you don't understand the lines and what justice does is restorative if you don't understand some of the basic principles of life and how to protect it. And so we're losing it all the way up on, which is why we can't deal with social justice issues right now.
Right. Yeah, we have no standard.
But to have restitution, you're getting at having restitution in our society. To have that, it means justice is really personal.
Yes.
The cops would have to work with that person. We'd have some sort of society where you have like restitution officers or something like that, where they're overseeing, making sure restitution happens, and people are getting paid back.
Well, I mean, we already have that.
I'm working with right, but it makes it personal in the right kind of way that God wants justice to be personal.
We're not repaying. There's no debt to society.
That's right. It's not the state versus.
Yeah, it's a debt that's repaid to a person,
to Bob or
family, an individual. But I think this goes back to your point, Knox. I think it's the sort of thing that the reason why we don't know what to do at the big level is because we haven't practiced it at the small level.
That's right.
Yeah. We need to be practicing restitution and repentance at the family level and at the church level. I mean, 1 Corinthians 6, Paul says, why are you taking your brother and your sister to court? Don't you know that we will judge angels?
Right.
I mean, so elders and pastors we have to be teaching on this so that our people know how to put things right, how to make things right, how to practice restitution. And then when situations are so gnarly that they get brought up to the elders need to know how to judge justly in matters that are brought before it.
Do you think a good book for that would be Gary DeMar's God and Government?
Yes.
Because he starts with self-governance and family governance and church governance, and then
absolutely, it's
I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, I mean, people need resources. Like, what do you mean by self-government? Like, I don't,
Well, and the other thing too, with that point, and we have to remember this isn't a conversation, even on the issue of murder, this isn't a conversation just for the civil government. This is a conversation by the time a kid, let's use Darrell Brooks, for instance. By the time a kid gets to the point where he's choking out his mom, choking out his wife, running over people to this point, the family has already been some sort of influence in his life to cultivate the kind of culture that we see coming out of this kid. And so we have other governments in place that help stop stop gaps of what happens in a society. We have the family government that helps instruct and teach how self-government is supposed to work. How do you operate in society? How do you communicate? How do you love your neighbor? And then the church ultimately is also a disciplinary for the self-governing and the family, and to instruct the civil magistrate on what God requires of blood guilt. Right.
Some of the most impactful punishments in my life were restitution punishments that my dad handed down to me. So there you go. We're done. We're done.
I just thought I better do that before somebody else jumps in.
Go ahead. No,
Pastor,
that's it.
appreciate you joining
Thanks
with
for
us,
having
man.
me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
If you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh,
Merry Christmas
and feast.
Merry Christmas.
This is Crust Politic. We're going to have a burning party for that.
American colleges have become more hostile to the faith of young Christians than the beaches of Normandy were to the Allies. Literally.
Undergraduate training wasn't always a death trap of unbelief. Once colleges were boot camps for body, mind, and soul.
Now, most college students spend their days in tax-funded adult daycares with all the intellectual rigor of lazy rivers, safe spaces, and complimentary condoms.
And in our recent COVID faux-apocalypse, those daycares became prisons almost overnight. Cover your face. Line up for your shot, stay in your room, but don't worry, the condoms were still complimentary. At New St. Andrews, you are not on vacation, you are not in daycare, and you won't be herded into a dorm. From week 1, you'll be treated like an adult.
You're responsible for paying your own rent and developing your own grocery budget. Or going hungry. Get a shot, or don't. Mask up, or don't. Most of our students even work part-time jobs on top of the 40-hour class workload. It's part of the anti-fragile hustle and grind that distinguishes our graduates from the majority of their own generation, and that employers and graduate schools love.
Most college graduates in the U.S. are stuck paying off loans for years. New St. Andrews sets you up to graduate debt-free and dangerous, ready to pursue grad school, a family, or business opportunities in the real world without any reliance on pork subsidies from Mother America and with no weeping need for safe spaces. The real world isn't a cushy place. No one owes you success. You are entitled to exactly jack squat in this life. But rich or poor, unlike your face or your freedom, your job or your business, an education and the ability to think clearly can never be taken from you as long as you are still above ground. Not by petty tyrants or cowardly clergy, not by thoughtless mobs or lab coat megalomaniacs. At New St. Andrews College, you'll learn from teachers whose ideas equipped men and women to build Western civilization in the first place, and which will be used again to defend and rebuild what has been lost as the West has faltered into decay, losing her faith and her mind.
Yes, most of our best teachers are dead. But our classical Christian liberal arts education is how we've been graduating thoughtful, articulate outlaws and leaders with spines for the last quarter century. The intellectual and theological bedrock beneath the Judeo-Christian West is what you'll study, engage with, write about, and own. It is what you will debate in class and present in public as you learn to live like forbidden fire, surrounded by the darkness of unbelief, manifesting God's truth, goodness, and beauty to all who live around you.
Training like this can't happen over Zoom. At New St. Andrews, we believe whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but a companion of real or virtual fools will suffer harm. Your peers shouldn't be your spiritual leaders. You should have a real flesh and blood in-person church for that.
NSA is in the heart of downtown Moscow, Idaho, where you will witness men and women building Christendom on every corner. Where else are you going to be able to break bread in your professors' homes, debate great literature with them while their kids are playing, sing psalms while being arrested with them, catch turtles with them?
No one comes to NSA to get lost in the crowd. You might be able to hide in a graduating class of thousands, but our classes are better measured in dozens. You will grow in this program or you will tap out. And when you finish, you'll be ready for life, in whatever moments and scenes and struggles God may have prepared for you. We are training students who worship and march and study and fellowship and sing and write and start businesses and raise kids that no one can mask, cancel, or bury. We follow the King of Kings who knew the way through the mob and out of the grave. We fight to rebuild Christendom in the ruins. in our families, and in our businesses, in the cities where we live, in the countries where we go, in the congregations where we worship. Your mom may worry that Moscow, Idaho is many miles from home. She should worry more about how spiritually distant even a nearby godless campus is.
After 4 years in a Christian community like ours, you will grow much closer to your family. Don't stay distant. Click the link today to schedule a visit to New St. Andrews College.